Yeah, so regarding our topics for this, live hang Q&A, which we'll see how, if it's received well, we'll continue on. I was thinking, we could talk about, you and I talked about what people could do.
Hmm.
I know that a lot of people I'm seeing a groundswell of more accounts sharing reels, etc. Are you seeing that? Like people that
Like,
haven't been sharing much before, I'm seeing like more people coming onto the field and wanting to play the game of, sharing truth and uncovering lies. Are you seeing that on your end
I'm
to a
not
degree?
really. I'm
Not
actually
really.
trying to promote that we need to get more people out there because I think Trump's and Melania, they're trying to sponsor this AI, like, oh, that's fake news, quote unquote. Like they don't like a certain image, they can use the scapegoat. Oh, that's AI, or like all these comments that you see is like, oh, are you sure this is real? He didn't say that. What's your source?
Yeah,
And
I
they're
see a
kind
lot
of
of that
almost.
too.
It's kind of like with like I said before, like the Mandela effect. They're trying to create the illusion that you second guess yourself so that you keep following the carrot on the stick into the new world order. Because there's more than a few people that are waking up that are having a lot of second thoughts within 9 weeks in, going, "What the frick, dude? This is you haven't lowered grocery prices. You fixed the straw problem, but
Yeah,
now
you're
you're
not
doing all these
releasing the
problems."
Epstein. You're not releasing the, all of the,
Yes,
you know,
it's already making some people go, hold up, bro. I thought we were on the level here. I thought you
yeah.
were going to drain the swamp. Why? What is this resistance here? And I think that's making more than a few, because I think I'm not going to say the special people word, but I know if I was reading a statistic right, there's at least 1/3 of his followers that are thinking, yeah, they're the problem in the world, but there seem to be blindsided as he's gotten a crown from them. He's gotten a Menorah award from them. He's like, there seems to be like, they don't acknowledge, yeah, and he just had a thing with the Noahide laws to implement internationally. He just went to, and they don't seem to realize that just yet. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm thinking when that happens for at least that group, it's going to funnel a good chunk down because it's going to make them go, oh, great. We just lost 1/3 of our fan base. There was already 32 million Americans that didn't vote in the 24 election that were Christians that
Oh,
said,
really?
we're not doing this anymore. We're done
I,
participating
I'm
in the game.
I'm one of them that didn't, and that's the first
Same.
election I've never voted in, and I'm like I'm done. I'm done playing your silly game, cashing out. So I didn't realize it was that high.
Uh,
Um,
for me, I saw that and I was immediately going, "Wow!" So I think content that you like yourself and I we put out there, these podcasts that are actually challenging the system. That's why they're the UN is saying we need to get rid of conspiracy theorists. This is why they're pushing
mhm.
up stuff like, "Oh, that's AI" and stuff like, because they're starting to do discredit, and then eventually they want to eliminate it, where you can't get online unless you're part of the
Right.
biometric CBDC system that they've
Yeah.
implementing.
Yeah. If they label you as a misinformer, that's, yeah, I agree.
If you're against Trump, aka patriotism, synonymous,
Yeah.
then you are against us. Therefore, we can deport you.
Yeah.
That's kind of the narrative that they're pitching is like, well, you do see that's like fascism. The
Yeah.
thing is, everybody says fascism is fascism. Half of them don't know what it means. The other half are in denials. Do you understand who enforces fascism?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have a leader that says, "My enemy is your enemy." You have people that are saying, "You're right, you're right." They put on a hat, they put on a swastika, fill in the
Mhm.
blank with whatever you want merchandise, and then they
Yeah.
enforce the rules.
Yeah, and I am seeing some, and the $100,000 question is how many people really are seeing through the BS narrative that is being promoted, and how many aren't. I mean, is the algorithm just feeding me what I want to see? Because I'm seeing random people who have not shared any. I've never seen their stuff before, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing them share stuff. You're seeing, Jake Shields is going crazy. And, all of these
Yes.
people are just hammering Israel. Like I was with some friends on Saturday and they were saying, and these people aren't particularly online people, but they were saying, yeah, you don't say anything bad about Israel. And I was thinking to myself, well, I'm actually seeing a lot more people being critical of Israel. I don't know if it's the algorithm or if it's really happening, but seems like things are coming to a head. I don't know.
It's coming to a head in the sense that I think more than a few people are feeling the quake.
Yeah.
going on, as it were. And I'm not sure what's going to happen on 13th, 14th. They're saying something with the blood moon and maybe something happening in Syria that might kick us off to go over there. Month of March, God of War. I'm just saying, I know
Conceivable, yeah.
occultically this is how they're all thinking, and I'm just going possibly, but
Yeah. You
more than
never know.
a few people are starting to go. So what? Why not the Epstein thing, or with what Dan Bongino? So if
Yeah.
you're the deputy director, you know it's a Middle East country, but we're being very vague. And like, like I think what was it Alex Jones? He says, "Oh, the elites, the secret societies, the whatever."
Yeah.
It's like, give me a name.
Yeah.
Should know by now, and they keep it so vague that you get these new agers going, "Yeah, the system, and we need a hero." Well, who is the?
Yeah.
It's whoever the media tells me is the hero.
Yeah. Well, it's funny to me to watch the people that are frustrated with with not being able to reach the dangling carrot that they've been dangling for 6 years. I mean, uh, but at the end of the day, you're like, okay, you have the choice to either make a decision or keep hopeism. Is that the term?
Opium.
Hopium. That's right. Yeah, that's where I got from you. It's like you hopium. I stopped that drug years ago because I'm like, hopium doesn't work for me. I'm not in a hopium because once they lose me a couple times, like I don't chase things infinitely.
Mm,
They lost me when Trump was running around trying to, secure his election win in 2020, and I was like, this is weird. I'm checking out, and I don't get on Hopium anymore. And I know some friends that are, good people, Christian people, want to do the right thing. They're still on the Hopium, and I don't blame them, but I'm not going to be on it anymore.
right. And I think as a Christian, that's why somebody's always like, "What do you mean? You think we shouldn't vote? You think we shouldn't be part of the state?" And I'm like, "Well, government, etymology wise, govern, control, meant from the
Yeah,
Latin mental mind control. So like
yeah,
that's one, but two, you start having your priorities divided because you start like, okay, well, that's how to be a good American. That's how to be a good patriot. Fill in blank with whatever. So if I want to be good to my country and to Christ, then I need to somehow merge the two. And you get a Just Volt nationalism cult that's
yeah,
like thinking, okay, so anybody that's against me, my border, my this, my that, and it starts becoming God doesn't draw borders, man does. That's what something we don't seem to understand, and that's
yeah,
why as Christians we're without borders. We are
yeah,
recruiting, irregardless. It's kind of like, as you said, you make you fishers of men. You throw the thing over. There's some fish, it's like too bony. That's not going to work. Too small of a fish. So you start throwing them out. You start throwing them back in. But then there's a few where you're like, this is good. This is something we can actually bring to market and it will reap rewards and it will fill somebody's belly. That's the same thing that's going on right now with society is that we're trying to do fishers of men and there's some people that aren't ready and we have to throw them back in, you know,
yeah.
or they're just that type. We can try as hard as we like, but they're just never going to change in their ways because they are so. This is hopium's what I know. It's a drug, and it's kind of like a cigarette in a sense. You know
Hmm.
by now what this is going to do to you. You hate the
Yeah.
system, the government, and your lungs are showing the ramifications of you being addicted to this. But you
Hmm.
don't want to acknowledge what the Stockholm syndrome aspect is that this is me making the conscious decision not to leave this abusive relationship.
Yeah.
It's like there's
Yeah.
a render unto Caesar for a time, like do your taxes, do this, but don't forget your spiritual priorities.
Hmm.
Can't merge the two. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
God first, God first.
You're right. People have got, that's one of the things that I woke up to over the last number of years too, is, you ask yourself, well, my inability to understand them is this. Anyone who has any knowledge, I mean, you don't even have to dig that deep to understand that the US has been terrorizing the world for 100 plus years,
Yeah.
you know, and then they've been whitewashing it just like Israel has been doing to their neighbors. I don't understand how people can look around at the terror the United States has done in Iraq and Libya and Yemen and facilitating directly, indirectly, and not realize who the bad guy is at this point. It's kind of getting to the point where I on the video the other day I was talking about the fact that if you are still believing in the narrative, you are taking an incredible amount of spiritual and physical energy in order to prop that up in your consciousness. And it is, I feel it's literally draining people of their life force because they're propping up the narrative, the false narrative, where if you accept the truth and you go after truth, it is literally effortless and you are, there's no energy drained from your physical body.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but some people, and you can kind of see it on people if they're draining themselves physically to prop up the lie that they've been programmed with for how many of the years.
Hmm.
Eventually that bill's going to come due. And, I just don't, it's so much, it's harder in some sense to go after the truth because you have to face the reality of what this world is. But it's easier in some sense too, I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like at the certain point. Have you ever seen the movie Falling Down?
Oh, the old with Michael Douglas.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
the old
yeah.
school. Yeah.
And at the very, very end, he goes, "I'm the bad guy." And we've seen his,
Yeah.
again, as the audience, we've seen his journey all day long, and we're kind of like, you know what? The douchebag kind of deserves. Yeah, he's kind of right in that scenario too.
Yeah.
But legally, the system is saying, yeah, you're doing something that's against. You're not just to go out and be a reckless, you know, guy that goes out and trying to be a vigilante cleaning up everything, and you're hurting
Yeah.
people while you're going along. And I think that's kind of what America, historically speaking, we have been so programmed that we are the good guys that when
Yeah.
we're told, no, you're the bad guy, we're hearing, oh, you're not patriotic. Oh, you're against the love of my country and the
Yeah.
flag. Oh,
You're
you're
an enemy of the state now, essentially.
yes. Yes, and it's ironic because state, country, flag, all temporary things in comparison to an eternal perspective. But we're programmed that we have to defend this because the minute we go to school, we put our hand over our heart and we say a pledge towards the
Yeah.
flag. And if we're going away from that, deport them, arrest them, and like we're seeing starting now.
Yeah.
Um, who's to say when that's first they go after the gypsies, then they went after this group, and
Yeah.
let's say they came
It's a
after
slippery
me and there was
slope.
no one to advocate for me. That's kind
Yeah.
of what I think is going to happen. I saw a comic earlier today, and it says it's a soldier looking down at this poor kid from the Middle East. He goes, hey, don't blame me, kid, blame the politicians in Washington who sent me here. I'm a good
Yeah.
guy, really. I was just joined to get
Yeah.
money to go to college. As you see a mutilated body in there with blood on his boots, it's like,
Yeah.
and I told my buddy, I said, the reason I don't think you see it, because even though you say you don't like Democrats, and I told him as I looked into the history, Manifest Destiny was written by a Democrat. So I thought that
Was it?
at least, yeah, we could
Wow.
get his little, like,
That's ironic.
and I said, so we did that to the Native Americans. Now think of that in the Middle Eastern sense. You don't think that we're anything. Why do you need bulldozers to go after the group that's
Yeah.
causing the problems? Why do you need them immediately there within 2 days after getting rid of a hospital?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me, dude. That should not be the priority. Is you go for the root of the problem and then you start, okay, the war is over, now we clean up. But why are you
Yeah.
doing it as you go along?
It's wild,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't, we didn't see a lot of footage coming out of, this type of footage coming out of, at least I don't remember. Maybe I was busy doing other things coming out of Iraq. I mean, I think most people know that the protocol is you go in and you bomb a country and then you send your Halliburton or your rebuilding teams in to rebuild the country and you double dip. You're
Yes.
seeing it in real, like you said, it's the process is being sped up. And I'm sure you probably saw that video Trump,
Trump
my
Gaza.
understanding is he didn't create the video, but he posted it to his social media, the Trump Gaza. I might have even seen you share it.
Which
Did you
is
see that
ironic
one?
because, like I
Yeah.
just said, the AI thing, he says, and I'm going to take part of this for myself when he just did the State of the Union address thing.
Yeah.
And I said,
I didn't watch that,
wait,
but
so if we're calling out that Trump Gaza video, for instance, or we're calling out something that Donald Trump Jr. posts you standing in front of a mirror with a goat staring right at you. So we have a problem with that, or we're saying you're like, oh, that wasn't us, or you guys are trying to reframe the narrative, so we're gonna, and the same thing with Zuckerberg. For January of this year, he updated his terms of agreement on, like, I think it's paragraph 9. When you look into the AI thing, you read it says possible um, reasons for imprisonment in rare cases.
wow.
I was going, and then you're at the inauguration. You
It's
know what?
all bizarre. It's so bizarre.
Yes,
And
it's they come to your house. And you're just like, how is this a yeah, while you were looking at the UK and Australia, we've been just rolling this over while
Yeah.
you're hitting terms of yes, accept terms of agreement, and you
Yeah.
just
Well, it's funny. It's funny you bring up Zuckerberg. So I was, with some friends. I haven't. My friends watch UFC. I haven't watched him in a long time. Because I've kind of, I kind of get a little bit. Once you see the lies and deception in the world, how these things are connected, and you helped me see a lot of this with pointing out the Super Bowl
yeah.
symbolism, et cetera. And then you see it in all sports and all the distractions and the bread and circuses. I've kind of been a little bit, but I'm trying to reintegrate to the degree possible. It's challenging. But anyway, he at UFC, Zuckerberg and his wife was there. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And I asked my friends, have you ever seen him at a UFC? And they said, no, we have not. Because it's like he is the last person you would ever, you see, of course, the Joe Rogans and all the
Right.
people in that subset, comics of his friends, and of course, Donald Trump on
Mm-hmm.
occasion. But they've said they've never seen Zuckerberg. And I was like, okay, this is part of his new rebranded image of, you know, it seems like everybody's going to Team Trump, or
Mm-hmm.
not everybody, but a number of people are going to Team Trump that haven't been there before. And it's just weird, you know?
It's weird, but when you also understand Elon's grandfather, Joseph Haldeman, he wanted to have like a technocratic empire,
Did he?
and he had all the way down to Panama to Greenland. And it's for me, you had all these technocrats like Jeff Bezos is funding basically the White House family now. You have
Yeah.
Zuckerberg kissing the ring. You have YouTube saying like we're going to be better with you now. For me, it's going. So if Musk said a phrase, "I'm going to be the George Soros of the right," and now we're having this stuff with the AI, we have to make it better for online safety. And you have this
Right.
conspiracy thing. What I'm seeing, dude, is within a year and a half or so. Oh, we had an incident with Iran or Syria, and because of everybody giving these false narratives and supporting everything that's going on over there, we need to unify this country so that we don't have this kind of mixed messages going on out there. We want to be pro. And
You're
Elon Musk
right.
released the
Yeah.
Dark MAGA assemble video, which makes me go, I think this is the route they're funneling us towards,
Yeah.
but people are just saying, no, no, we still got 5 more years. We still got 3 more years.
It definitely, well, let's put it this way, and you called it a year ago when we first talked to you, if it's not passing the smell test. Like it's kind of like, this is a really bad example, but if you're in the butchering business and you start popping off cattle, the other cattle are going to look and go, hey, something's wrong. Like there's people are very, some people
Yeah,
aren't.
right.
Some people are very skittish right now. And for me, when I see them doing that, I'm like, okay, are you bait and switching us? Zuckerberg's talking about, like you said, they're all talking about free speech and everything. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't pass
Mm-hmm.
the smell test. And you're right. It could be, I know they're up to something again. Just what is it, right? Like you said, that analogy or that analysis sounds logical. They're going to bait and switch us, say, okay, have your free speech. Oops, you can't have it. We now enter trouble. Whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I just don't trust them.
And I think I heard that by 27 they want to pass legislation where, like I said, you can't get in unless it's just your social security. In essence, is basically giving you a thumbs up so you can get online access. Which, again, if you're going by Revelation, that's Mark of the Beast. Also,
Yeah.
27 happens to be the year of the goat, and Elon wears
Mm,
the devil's champion as his little outfit. So,
yep.
eh, eh, you know, could be wrong, could be right, but for me. I think I think they're going to allow a certain remnant of group of people who are putting out conspiracy theorists for sensationalism content only, but there's not
Hmm.
really a solution. They're kind of vague. Those are ones that are probably going to get a little bit of a, okay, we saw your stuff. Now they're going to have somebody come and talk to you. You can either continue or to platform you. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So you're either
Yeah.
going to submit to the system and narratives or what is allowed, what isn't allowed. And I think it literally will be an in-person thing. It's not going to be some digital. It will be, I'm going to come and talk to you with this Cash Patel stuff because
Wow.
it's going to seem a little scarier. You have a couple guys in SWAR, a couple agents all standing
Yeah.
there, and you get a little bit like, okay, well, I don't want to lose all my followers,
Yeah,
but
you're gonna have to make a choice, right? You're gonna have,
right,
am I gonna double down or am I gonna back off? And
right,
that's a whole nother level when they're coming to you at your door, right?
right. And I had a thing with the doobie smoker from January 6th that got me into this whole podcasting thing. And one minute he was saying I don't trust Trump anymore, and I took screenshots. And the next minute he was getting upset at a post that I did on Trump Tower, and then he started, going after Christ. And this is right
Mm.
after they picked him up a second time, and I was like, did they do an MK Ultra on you? Because this is not the guy I was talking to on shows. This is not the guy in comments that was saying
Yeah.
I'm wary now after being betrayed at J6. This is somebody who did they tinker something around in here and then scare the out of you, and then that's why you're I don't know, but if that is one version of a person that I did know,
Yeah.
who's to say they're not going to upgrade that into a larger scale of content creators?
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that a number of people who either knew people that were, kind of rising up into popularity and be more eyes on them, that instantly kind of change and switch and
Yeah.
stop talking. I mean, I don't know. I mean, stranger things that have happened, right? I mean, that's par for the course. If you've got an information war going on and you are speaking some truth, yeah, you're probably going to be visited and or given a choice. you know.
Somebody I was following this page on Facebook, but it was somebody on TikTok. They were calling out essentially some stuff about Cash Patel, and the person he tagged says expect a visit. That's part
Yeah.
of the reason why I'm saying something like that. And then I was on another show with this guy that's an exile in Georgia from America, and he was saying he was doing this other guy's show, and he says prior to the show, let's just not touch Elon. He's like, well, why? He
Mm,
says, I got all these connections to him and Peter Thiel, and this blah blah blah. He says, yeah, but the people need a hero. Let's not ruin that for them. And
interesting.
either that's controlled opposition trying to reel it in,
Yeah.
or that's the problem is that you are creating false prophets,
Yeah.
right? And again, I'm seeing false prophet Elon, maybe AC for Trump, because they're fitting the narrative to a T.
Yeah.
Even if I'm wrong, I can be open to that as well. But unfortunately, at the moment, seeing what I'm seeing, I'm
Yeah,
going,
it's not like you're pulling this out of thin air. You've
yeah,
done hours and hours of research, and you have that's another topic that we should cover at some point.
yeah.
Maybe dedicate a whole show is, the work you've done with on Trump, like the coin, the moving the capital to Jerusalem. I mean, there's so many things that line up. Again, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, probably a duck. That's all you can do is this is the thing that I get frustrated with people about, because they look to people like you and I that are kind of out here doing our thing, and they roll their eyes maybe and they're like, whatever, whatever. But I just want to sit them down and tell them, do you understand how the CIA works and operates? They are knowledge gatherers. They acquire knowledge, and then they put it into a database and say, what's the probability that this information is accurate? Like there's no difference. But because people don't even understand how the CIA works by design, they look at us out here, and part of that could be also, like we talked about earlier, is whatever, if a person's in patriot program mode, whatever a person says that's anti-patriot, they're instantly an enemy of the state.
Mm-hmm. And
So
that's why
I
they
think
censor posts when I do like that.
yeah, yeah, they censor post, and then people get triggered. They don't want to know the truth. They don't want to critically think. Many don't want to critically think. I mean, their whole world could come crashing down, like ours did when we had ours, individual awakenings, you know.
For me, it wasn't so much as crashing down. It was more of a because we didn't really do politics when I was growing up in our household. But for me, it was like Trump was not even the first 4 or 5 on my docket when they had the whatever 8 to 10 people up there on that stage. And then I was like, it wasn't necessarily Lister to you. It was more of a Hillary. I definitely know. I guess some random business guy. Second
Hmm.
time, like I said, it felt like I was a guy standing in line to a whorehouse. What if somebody sees me here? So both times, it wasn't necessarily like I have to do this. It was more of a yeah, why not throw in my two cents to the and then
Yeah.
now I can't condone the circus anymore
Yeah,
because
you've seen more behind the scenes of the circus. You've seen the abuse of the animals. You've seen
yes,
the exploit, you
it's like when
know.
you go to your favorite store and then you get to work there for like a seasonal job and then you're like, I just lost all the fun that I used to have coming to this store. I don't
Yeah,
want
I
to go back
mean, but
there again.
and when or a while ago, before the election, I posted the meme of Kamala and Trump dressed as clowns, and it was
Yeah.
like, when you're voting for whichever clown, and I got a lot of freaking kickback from people on the left and right, and some from my own family members even saying, hey, voting's a privilege and a right. And I used to believe that too. I
Mhm.
don't believe that anymore. I'm more towards the Jones plantation theory.
Yes.
But
And
like
like you
you
just said,
see,
it's statistics of gullibility. Like
yeah,
somebody like
if
Candace
you know, you
Owens,
know. I mean,
I would say I like her or would, but when I know
mhm,
about her father-in-law, he's part of the
yeah.
for a Christian Jewish anti-Semitism Semitism League in the UK. So that makes me go, why would you
Who?
work for
Which?
Prager? It's some kind of Christian Jewish anti-Semitism.
But who's the person you're talking about? Her father-in-law?
Candace Owens.
Oh, oh, really? Oh,
First, she
really?
works for Prager, which is
Okay,
a
yes.
confirmed CEO that worked formerly for Mossad. Then she works for Shapiro,
Yeah,
another
she
guy
worked
from
for
the same
Shapiro.
region.
Ugh.
But thirdly, her husband was the youngest guy to be, I think, a leader or some kind of treasurer of the
Okay, I
Black
didn't know
and White
that.
Ball, which connects to the
Yeah,
Rothschilds.
really?
For
Yeah,
me, it's going, I like what you're saying, but is
yeah,
it
she
now
is.
coming down to people who are still following her? We're still gleaning statistics and data of who's following her for the narrative and
Yeah.
who's still, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of
Well,
what I'm pitching is that they're trying to make it look like divide and conquer, but in actuality, it's just data like, okay, so they're following this one, they're following this one. So this is the
yeah.
narrative they're believing. This is how much they know.
Well, it's funny. I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things that I've seen very clearly over it's been even a number of years, is before online, the kind of the online Candace Owens, Andrew Tate's, Joe Rogan's, before those people, you had your talk radio hosts, your Rush Limbaugh's, your Michael
Yeah.
Savage. And I look back over that era of, gosh, 20 years. I mean, however long the, conservative talk radio. And there was a lot of talking going on and a lot of supposedly, truth being shared. And the course was changed zero. Like
Hmm.
nothing physically manifested in the road, even though Rush Limbaugh got on every day. And, and now I have second guess about him. Or fortunately, he's not here to see how he'd
Yeah.
be reacting now. But you can, look with your spiritual eyes of discernment and go, same with Ben Shapiro, same with all those people. They talk a lot, Clay and Buck, they talk a lot, but nothing really ever changes. It's all just lip
Yes.
service and it sounds nice to the ears. And they, kind of garner all these conservatives and many Christians conservatives, and they don't ever do anything.
Right. And
So
I think
wild.
that's part of the thing because in the Bible they called them soothsayers. And this is part of the
Mm,
significance of Daniel chapter 2 when Nebuchadnezzar has a dream. He over here goes, okay, I was freaked out. Bring in the guys that interpret dreams. And I said, okay, tell us what it is. He says, you know what? I Here's the thing. You tell me what my dream was. How are we supposed to know that? I says, exactly. But if you're so good at your job, I'm not going to tell you and then you give me some fancy story to fit whatever narrative I want to hear about it. I want you to tell me what the dream is. And this is where it's significant, where Daniel comes in and he's like, God, tell me what the dream was so I can. Why? Because people, they want to remain stagnant. They don't want to do. They want to be followers. They just want, again, like I said, is some of the stuff they're talking about important? Absolutely, 100%. But does it ever change?
yeah.
No. And it's just like going to church. You go to church, you hit the
Oh,
checkbox,
such a
but
good
do you live it when you go out? It's like cubicle Christianity. It's like
yeah.
I'm a good little Christian, but you're like the Levite or the guy that walks on the other side of the road while your brother and sister is maimed, laying in a ditch because he got robbed. This is again, this is where the Good Samaritan's coming into play. It says, I sympathize with Palestine. Oh, no, the citizens. I sympathize with any citizen. I sympathize with citizens in Russia because
Yeah.
there's some of them is just they're in the system and they have no means of getting out of it. But what is our hope? Again, that's what I'm looking for is not hopium in the world, but
Yeah.
hope is in Christ. My citizenship is in Christ. That's why I'm happy because I see it, but like we've said before, we're lighthouses. We're saying come into the little, the trading post. I'll give you a little meal, give you
Yeah.
some information to continue on your journey like Pilgrim's Progress, and you go on your merry way. Hopefully, you make it to the kingdom, or just help encourage and build up. But the thing is, people don't want to get up and stand up for themselves. They don't want to say it for themselves. They just want somebody else to keep saying it because it sounds nice, but it keeps them nullified.
Yeah. Well,
We're
and
getting stalagmites.
yeah, well, and it also makes them feel like it's the same thing that was going supposedly going on with Q. Like, don't
Yeah.
do anything. We're working on it behind the scenes. And for a while that sounds good, but then after a while you're like, I see what you're doing. If people had knowledge of, you know, deception and how covert action agencies were and how all this stuff works. I sometimes think that maybe I was in a freaking military in the past life, and it's not hard to understand how these information war. Although I think, and you probably can attest to this too. I mean, I think certain people that are on Earth right now are here because, and the ones that are speaking the truth are here because they have an aptitude to see through the BS, and maybe they have
Mhm.
an aptitude for, I like I told you before, I mean, my whole life's been I've been a seeker of information and knowledge. Clearly, you have been a seeker of information and knowledge for your whole life too. And so it
Yeah.
only makes sense that in an information war, a psychological war, a spiritual war, certain people are gonna be better suited to fight that war than others.
Well, some of it is like for myself, it was kind of an upbringing where I didn't know what it was for a long time, but I saw what manipulation was going on at
Mm,
home. I saw what this Stockholm syndrome was doing in the person, my mother, hiding it behind a bottle because she didn't want to confront it, whether
hmm.
legally or, what's the ramifications? What would people say? Family shame. And I'm over here like, listen, I understand we have a few statutes like, as a Christian, you shouldn't get divorced, blah, blah, blah. But there's a certain point where if the person is intentionally hurting you, and it may not be physically by belting you around and stuff like that, but they're intentionally making you
Yeah,
feel you can't have the confidence to be yourself, that's not healthy. And we're living in a society where people, I think they're being groomed. Just do the rat race.
yeah.
Don't think outside the box. Just
Don't
keep doing it.
don't stick your head up and think. Yeah, don't think for
Well, because
yourself.
we'll whack it. We'll whack it
Yes.
straight down. And that's what we need. Because the more of us that all pop
Yeah.
up at once, it's like, you can't get all of us. You can't, if everybody runs to the ramparts, you can't stop all of us.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And that's why the information war is so important. The narrative war is so important because if we can get in here, then you're never going to do anything with the rest of your body. So if we've got this up here programmed, or oh,
Hmm.
don't worry, somebody's looking into it for you. Don't worry, we have a hero.
Yeah.
It's
Don't dirty your hands with the just
right.
don't tussle yourself. We got it.
And it's kind of like that classic scene was the Naked Gun. Everything is under control. There's nothing to see here as everything's blowing up behind him in absolute chaos. That is what's going
Yeah,
on with the
it
government
is.
narrative right
That's a
now.
great
The planes
analogy.
are falling from the sky. And they're over here. Don't worry. Elon's going to fix it. Don't worry. Trump's going to sign this. In the meantime, how come my groceries for eggs is like 12 to 15 bucks?
Yeah.
How come, like, list lifter, lift to lift. We're like, what, 9 weeks in and you still haven't gotten rid of chemtrails?
Hmm.
How come you don't know? You're the president.
Yeah.
I thought you were so much against it. Wouldn't that be one of the top 10 things because of MAGA, whatever? You want us to be healthy, so let's get rid of that stuff in the sky. No. So, dude, I'm literally seeing him doing tic tac toe patterns in this.
Yes.
I was literally getting like
Yes.
a healthy smoothie at a little walk around mall strip thing. And I'm looking up going, they're taunting us at this point.
It's so wild. Yeah, yeah. The other thing that I think about, I need to be more conscious about this. See, I've kind of been, if you're on a path to truth and you've been on it for 20 years, you forget how people that aren't on that, I forget how people that are on that path are. And going back to Jones Plantation, I mean, if you're born on the plantation as a slave, a mental slave in the system, you don't even know you don't know.
Yes.
It's one of those things, and so I try to cut people some slack, but I just want to shake them and go, we are on a plantation. We have been programmed from birth to not think and to, it does get frustrating. Do you ever get frustrated with people?
I mean, I was getting very rude with somebody the other day because I'm like, you're a grown man. I censor
Yes.
myself. So you're a grown man and you're defending Santa Claus because you're like Santa. Santa is a word for saint. Look it up. It's like, well,
Yeah.
again, you're seeing a 1 minute something for a show, and you're writing this as your defense, then you're asking me if I support Joe
Because it
Biden.
makes you
I'm
feel
like,
better,
we
right?
don't vote. We don't do that stuff. Like the guy said before, that I wanted to do a show with. We don't do the voting. We don't do left, right, liberal, MAGA. I said I delete most of those or block them the minute they
Yeah,
comment something like that, or I can kind of gauge their profile. Like, yeah, you're not going to be fit for my page because I don't
yeah,
need reports and stuff like that. I'm just being healthy. I'm being mindful. So the fact that people are thinking, oh, just because, like, no, you and I can see the left and I can see the right, and I funnel it through myself, and I go, okay, I've heard both sides of the narrative, like King Solomon. I'm I'm cutting it in half, but deciphering it as the way that this is going to best apply to me as I'm living in this world. Right, I'm one of the idiots that's living here, and I'm going to go forth knowing what I know, hearing both sides. But everybody can come talk to me because that's the irony. I've been invited to all these rich liberal places, and they have no idea where I stand, politically
really.
speaking. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm centrist. It's like, well, do you vote? No. Well, do you what about this side? I can hear it, but it doesn't make, I don't have to combat it every freaking second.
Right.
Contrarian, yes, but I'm a critical thinking contrarian. I don't disagree just to disagree. I like walking you through the process like Socrates. Okay, why do you think that? And then I'm also like Diogenes, where, as you just said, I kind of want to shake you or bring in the naked chicken and be
Yeah.
like, behold your man, because this is how
Yeah.
stupid you sound with the. So I think that's kind of where we're living in, is that yes, I think people want to do that, but it's kind of like you can say it, but if you don't get up from bed, it's like I'm gonna like I think you said I think it was you that told me this. You have this workout equipment, you get it, but then you never actually utilize it because you're like
Yeah.
I got busy or I'm not feeling it and I'm
Yeah,
tired or I
you
don't,
gotta do the work. Whether
right,
it's whether
right,
it's the information gathering or assessing. Just recently this last and as you know, it's never ending. Recently, this last week, I probably downloaded it before, looked to do a little bit before, but Behold a Pale Horse, went on
yeah,
archive.org, downloaded that, and then I was looking into the protocol for the elders of Zion, from the elders of Zion, just like it never ends, acquiring knowledge and information and skimming it and
mm-hmm,
revisiting it. And then you just put more pieces in the puzzle together. I mean, for my puzzle, the puzzle is pretty much all done for me. Like
mm-hmm,
I know I have clear direction on what I shouldn't say that. There will all, for me, I think there'll always be gaps because it's just too much information to
right.
put a puzzle together in one lifetime. But as far as like what I need to know, the puzzle is very there's enough pieces in the puzzle to make me know what to do and what not to do. That's the thing I tell people. I'm like, there are there's real world consequences at stake. And it could be your own health and well-being, it could be your financial wealth and well-being, definitely your spiritual health and well-being is at stake. A friend or a loved one. I mean, people don't seem to understand, even if you don't even talk about like the political thing or the spiritual or biblical things that are happening, people don't seem to understand that if you don't research diet and exercise and how to eat, there's a probability you could get gobbled up by a BS narrative. Like they don't
Mm.
understand there's real world consequences.
Well,
It's so wild.
the food dilutes your mind or erodes it so
Yes.
that you don't want to become resistant, and that's, I think
Yes.
that's part of the thing is why they said at first, yeah, we don't want to give them meat. Now it says give them meat every single day, whereas what I personally am suspecting with the whole fasting thing is you can have it, but you should probably have it ever so often. Fast for
Moderately.
three or 4 days. Yeah, 3 or 4
Yeah.
days. Because we
Yeah.
don't do that with our body. So we don't let things detox. We don't let things just, why?
Yeah. We
Because we
just
always
keep
have to
putting it
consume.
in.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And at a certain point, it's the same thing with the mind. What I'm seeing with guys like us, like for me, it's storytelling. But what am I doing? I am citing an author whose book is no longer in publication. But here's the thing: that book is now $2,000. What am
Yeah.
I doing? Guess what? I'll kick on the baton. I'll apply a modern lens or help the narrative, put some visuals up there, and I'll help other people. Because
Yeah.
if you can't do the puzzle yourself, then pay somebody to do it for you.
Yeah.
And it's. I was, as you were talking, you were making me think. I'm like, yeah, we're not. We can see what's going on, but we don't follow the highway to hell, quote unquote. We see the
Mm-mm.
left, we see the right. Spiritually, we understand we have a certain. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't do this astral projection stuff and all these.
Right.
I just say, okay, I study enough to know the okay, and then I also the cryptids. I'd say that's below hell and trying to understand the dark side. And then from there, I'm just walking right in the middle, but I'm still going straight ahead, and I'm not being distracted. I'm just bracketing, saying if I go too far that way, I know that's where that leads. If I go too far
Hmm.
this way, if I go too far that way, I just want to go in the straight and narrow. And too
Yeah.
many people, they get, oh, this side has it. They found the solution, and I'm over here
Yeah.
like, I think that's the problem, is you keep picking at a Daily Wire, a PragerU, a fill in the blank of some hub, but you yourself, the same thing with like even the Libertarian Institute. Like I have libertarian sentiments. When I'm reading it, I'm like, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Me
yes.
too.
But then I'm over here going, I don't support political party though. It's more of tribal
Yeah. Good
libertarian,
point.
as in you do you. Yeah, that's your tribe, or that's what you guys do. As for me and my house will serve the Lord. I have free reign to debate you, but I'm not supposed to enforce my way upon you. I'm supposed to give you a look of like, you're doing better than me. Grass is always greener, and there's plenty of pasture to share. You want to join me?
Hmm.
That's how I see that aspect. But
Yeah.
and I'm thinking I might do an episode just breaking that down, because I people read my inscription, and because we throw this presupposition of, oh, that definition means this, oh haha, that's such a joke. No, I have those definitions because I understand my political compass, or the way I view the world,
Hmm.
and I can articulate that. Can you? And I think that's almost something we could probably cultivate for people is,
Yeah.
how do you define yourself? What does that definition mean for you? Just like the Bible. Are you living it? Does it mean something to you?
Well, and then, you bring up a wonderful point. When you ask someone how they define themselves, 80 to 90% of people probably never thought about it. You know,
Mhm.
one of the things that I'm seeing in my own journey as I, do this work and also create tools and techniques and processes to help people awaken to their power that they have to make real change in their life, whether it's, dietary change, exercise change, relationship change. We come here to improve, and
Yeah.
one of the things that have been so prominent in my own experience and really key is, if a person doesn't change the way they see themselves and the way that they identify, let's say a person who wants to get healthier, if they don't first see themselves as a healthy person, and I start identifying and eat, kind of like when we eat food to nourish the body, if we don't eat those ideas of like, I'm a healthy person, I'm a healthy person, I love exercise, and you eat that food, so to speak, it's impossible for you to change, because then you just stay in that rut of, oh, well, I wish I was healthier, but I'm not if you don't identify, it's so
Yeah.
powerful. And I see it in other people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you need identity therapy in order to,
You
kind of, because that's how I improve.
need IT support.
Yeah, you need IT support. I mean, because
I'm making that a shirt. Sorry, where's my phone?
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, if you can't, I don't know, it's just so fundamental. But many people, we've been, like we said, we're on Jones Plantation, and they believe they're a slave at a subconscious level, because they've always been taught that, and then they go about that. It's wild, you
Dude,
know,
that was,
you know.
oh, that is funny. IT support, identity therapy.
Yeah, I mean,
Because guys, you were talking though, you were making me think when people get the personal trainer, because like, well,
hmm,
I don't have the motivation to do it myself, or I want to know
yeah,
how to do these kind of sets. That's kind of what you and I are doing with the information.
yeah,
It says, okay, you already went to a teacher. I would do that because I love teaching, I love acting, I love directing. That's
yeah,
kind of, if I had to pick, or writing, I like framing it, but I also would like to say, okay, I'm going to explain the scene to you. This is what I want to get from you, or emotions on the screen. And it's an art, because you're learning to talk to people. You're learning to say, okay, this funny, that expression you did, I want you to do that right here, because that's going to make sense.
yeah,
It's the same thing when we're doing these narratives, is saying, okay, so now you know this, you know that. Let's stop sensationalizing it. Let's start now implementing what we've learned today. And it comes to a certain thing. The minute the personal trainer is off your docket and you're no longer paying them, they're just
yeah.
like, okay, that's it. I'm going to go back
Back to
to
their
that.
old ways.
Right. Or this is a lot of teams, like some people are saying, with libertarians or bordertarians. They're over here going on the MAGA train, and it's like, don't think you understand what it means to be, we're done, or we want less government. I don't
Yeah,
think you understand when we say anarchy. I'm not saying anarchy as Antifa. I'm saying anarchy as in we're against the archons, the fallen titans. That's actually where the
mhm.
etymology comes from. When
Oh,
I
I
was like,
didn't know that.
yeah,
Mhm.
I was going, that's pretty cool. No wonder they don't want us talking about that, because they were controlling
Yeah,
states, pre flood. So for me, it's kind of going, yeah, when I'm saying I'm against all of that, and I say libertarian as in, yeah, I think we should all have the right to go to the hut and powwow. And again, it's not saying that somebody's in control. We respect the elder because they got old for a reason.
Yeah.
Respect that. And there's nothing wrong with that because in the Bible there's elders in the faith, right? So
Mhm.
we don't really teach that in Christianity. It's just listen to the holy man. And then I just keep doing my pagan ways. I keep doing voting. I keep doing this. There's no change. Just rapture me out before it gets really bad. I'm ready to go. But when somebody tells you there's a secret society that's, controlling some stuff and the food that you're eating, they just roll their eyes. And I'm over here like, God, please.
Yeah. But it is. I think people are. I don't know. I don't know if they're waking up or not. Sometimes I think maybe I get a little. Maybe I'm into some hopium too. Thinking people are waking up to seeing some of the lies and deception. But the other thing, as you were talking, I think about this sometimes. I'd love to get your 2 cents. I can imagine, in a way, it's so easy to deceive people. Like if I was the devil and if I was evil and I was, part of these group of people that are just, enslaving humanity for fun and profit so they can live and do whatever they want. I would be I would be bored because it's so easy to deceive. Clearly, it's so easy to deceive people. You know what? Hundreds of, millions of people on earth are deceived. Do you think the devil and his agents ever get bored going, this is too easy? I mean, or do you think they even think about that?
Well, I think that's going into like C.S. Lewis's Screw Tape Letters, where he's talking.
Is it?
This demon's nephew's asking his uncle, like, how do I do this? How do I deceive this person? And he's writing out all these little dissertations of do this, do that, and if you really want to
Mhm.
get to him, do this. And I think it's I don't think it's hopium with what you're looking at. I think it's more of a yes. I do think there's a few people that are gradually kind of waking up,
Mhm.
but I don't think they quite understand the spiritual warfare aspect. It's more of I'm understanding there's evil. And that's kind of where you and I then come in, where it's like, yeah, because there's times I really do think it. And I hate, and I think, I'm not, I guess people are like, oh, you're a narcissist, you're this. I says, no, I'm trying to be really happy because I'm dealing with some really dark stuff. You ever hear of
Yeah.
Robin Williams? We're trying to make you
It's
laugh.
heavy. It's heavy.
But if you knew the guy, I'm going through a lot.
Mhm.
And there's times I'm thinking, I'm like, I would be so good at this game right now if I was on the other side because it is
Mhm.
so see,
Yeah.
and it's sickening because I'm like,
Mhm.
people do this and they exploit good intentioned people
Yeah.
and they program him and with this arrogance, like what you're doing is fine, keep going as you are, and I have to be the bad guy and get up on stage and says you're against God and you're doing this wrong and you're doing that, and everybody's like, oh, you're not being loving, oh, you shouldn't be judging, oh, you're
Yeah.
doing it. And I'm like, sorry, but you were paying people like George Carlin to insult you. He wasn't talking about random people. I'm
Yeah.
insulting my audience and you're paying me to do this.
Mhm.
Do you
Yeah.
get it? But a lot of people, like, you're just taking the information, you're laughing, you're like, oh yeah, that's stupid hypocrite, here's a mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh? Oh, wait a minute, that's me. It's like, yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to tell you. And
Yeah.
I think that's
Mhm.
the saddest part, dude, is that I was reading a book on satire because it's again learning how to
Theater.
do my
Mhm.
stuff.
Performance. Yeah.
And it says God made man in his own image, said the minister as the village idiot walked by.
Mm.
And I
Wow.
chuckled because I was like, this is yes, God made us in his image, but God has intellect. God
Yeah.
understands his word,
And
hence
we've
his
allowed ourselves to be done. We allowed ourselves to be taken advantage of. Generationally. Is that where kind of where you're going? Is that we've gotten lazy?
yes, and we don't look to the sins of our grandfather and so like we read this stuff
Mm-mm.
like, oh, silly Israel fell away from God. Oh wait, this king was good. This king was bad. That king was bad. This king was really good. This one was really bad. And it's over here going, well, what did they do aside from just sacrificing kids and talking to idols?
Yeah. Well, and we've been lured, generationally, for generations, we've been lured away. As soon as the advent of radio and television, and even, I mean, sure, even back to Shakespeare's time, that when it started, like, look over here at the breaded circuses and don't either read the Bible or listen to your parents or hang out, did distract. I think about this a lot. And the other day, I just did a video about this, talking, because I'm big on like doing my mission in life, and I want to help people, other people do their mission and their purpose. You don't want to die not having fulfilled your mission. And the key thing that I keep coming back to is the devil doesn't have to like kill you. He just has to distract you for 70, 80 years so you don't do your mission, and he wins.
Yes.
And he's winning because people are like, oh, I want to see all these movies. I want to watch all these sports. Like it blows my mind to see after people like yourself helping me see about what the sports are, and specifically the Super Bowl, packed stadium, paying thousands of dollars, drinking beer, getting all lit up, and just idolizing this. And I'm like, you can't tell me that on those people's deathbed, they're not going to be going, oh, I didn't ever do my mission. Somewhere deep down, it's going to bubble up and they're going to regret it, you
And
know?
that's the thing is, imagine getting up into eternity and you're just saying, I was waiting for the rapture.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all
Wild,
we're doing.
wild,
It's
you
it's
know?
dude, it's astounding because there's some people I'm like, okay, you're telling me it doesn't matter about Trump because well, if I voted for him, that's neither here nor there. It is because, like you just said, I'm reading this book by if you could find it, I think you can print it off from online, but it'd be very good for what you're dabbing into.
Yeah.
Rulers of Evil
Oh, you mentioned it the other day. Yes.
Tupper Saucy, yeah, and they were even saying that yes, during Shakespeare's time, they were finding out that it was easier to get the crowd to accept a narrative via entertainment as it was from behind the pulpit. Because push
Hmm.
the limit, and
Yeah.
you also could give like it's kind of like the jester, but you're doing it now for the dummy peasants, and
Yeah.
you're going, well, yeah, what's wrong with yeah? There's nothing wrong with that because we've groomed ourselves to allow, and this is why in the early church actors and soldiers were not too well looked upon of joining the congregation because an actor, and again all the way back to the westerns, you're always leaving like, oh, she's an actress. I was watching a Bonanza episode. It's like because that was true
Mhm.
back in the day. They might have been affiliated mildly with prostitution to a certain extent because
Mm.
they have in that trade. It's
They're
questioned.
acting. Yeah.
And for me, it's like when I'm looking at acting, I'm like, I genuinely want to get a story out there. I understand the powerful of a metaphor, and getting this a narrative out there that really makes you think. Like when I was writing my stuff, like I said, I think I told you before, there's no good, there's no bad, there's two sides, and I want you, the reader, to be like, what it makes you
To use
question
their
everything.
mind. Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
It's
Yeah.
it,
Instead of
it,
just like feeding them. Yeah.
Right, or giving you this is
Good
the good
point.
side and this is the definite evil side. I want you to look at both sides being like both of them are really messed up, but there's some really good people getting
Yeah.
caught up with both sides narrative. That's kind of what, and I think at the end I summarized it where they have this big battle and the two guys are talking to each other at the end. He says, I think I learned something is that the meaning of life is that all life has meaning
Hmm.
because it's against the system, it's against the war, it's against all this stuff. And while it was entertaining, it builds up to this whole thing of going, wow, we lost a lot of good people because we
Hmm.
were trying to do it in our way, our vision. And that's kind of what I'm seeing in the world is, oh, I need to pick up a gun and go fight for my country because,
Yeah.
otherwise freedom's not free. And I'm looking at my buddy as he's telling me this as I'm driving next to him. And I'm like, dude, you tell me third world country, they're primitive, right? They're gonna somehow again rehijack a plane, whatever, fill in the blank, fly over the Mediterranean, fly over the entire. Which again, Russia
Yeah.
can't even do
Yeah.
this. China can't even. I mean, they could, but
Yeah.
logistically, really freaking
Yeah,
hard. So you're
the probability is very, very, the U.S. because of is that what he's saying is you're trying to get him to see that we are basically a fortress and there's no real threat. Is that what?
dude, it's like a giant moat around the
Yeah.
U.S.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to strike it down is I personally think it's Mr. Babylon the Great. It's going to be wormwood, a giant meteorite just going taking out
Hmm.
half of the continent
Yeah.
because
Or from within, like the Roman Empire, like the rotting from
exactly.
within, which is happening. You
Which I
know?
think Hannah Arendt, she was saying is that when basically right before an empire falls, it's because there's no empathy. And Elon just posted, it was next to a tweet. This thing that's wrong with this country is that we have too much empathy.
Oh,
And I'm over here going,
yeah. That's wild.
it's like, what's wrong with empathy? What's
Hmm.
wrong with loving thy neighbor? Right? Isn't that an antithesis of Christ?
Yeah.
The golden rule, do unto others, or this is my first commandment is that you love one another. So you're telling me take away empathy, and this is the guy that's next to a good Christian man in the White House that has a spiritual advisor to say no to President Trump is to be saying no to God?
Yeah, that's
How
wild.
how do Christians justify this?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, once the program gets in, and just there's not a lot of critical thinking, and then it just stays there, and they don't know any better. But yeah, it's funny you bring up your friend. I mean, I was talking to another friend months ago and maybe last year about the Ukraine war, and they said something that, clearly was red flag for programming to me. And they said, well, it's better if the war happens over there and instead of on our soil, as in, these proxy wars, like you fight it. And I thought to myself, well, I didn't even respond. I didn't even respond. I just kind of nodded because what do you say to someone like, if they're still believing that lie, there's nothing you can really say. I'm not
Right.
going to argue with someone, but well, and I even think back to when I wasn't as awake as I am now with the Iraq War, and I really didn't know what was going on over there. I didn't give it much thought either way. They said we got to go to war. I'm like, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
give it any thought. Now I look back at the horrific slaughter we did over there, and I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's like we're the good guy. We okay, no, we brought them
You're
into
supposed to
democracy.
be, right?
Yeah, it's like like yeah, you're good luck, kid, and then you walk away with all the resources in the back of the trucks and a cloud of dust, and you just look at them and say, "Have fun."
Yeah.
You're like, thanks for the liberation. Like
Yeah,
you're a puppet.
exactly. It's wild, you know?
And it's what's wild, dude, is that while we're all looking at the boogeyman of Russia, China, and all this stuff,
Yeah.
we don't look at ourselves in the mirror. And that was another
Mhm.
thing that I think I was in college when I came up with this one. So I don't fear the man in the mirror. I fear the shadow which looms behind him.
Wow. That's
And again,
good.
so I'm gonna say, you got it, but the college kids again, program Baptist, they
Yeah.
didn't get it. They're like, this sounds weird. I'm like, well, duh, it's gonna sound weird because you don't know how to look at your again. The mirror. This is what you put out there for everybody else to see. You look real good.
Right.
What's the dark side of you that you don't
Yep.
want everybody else to see? That's not in the mirror because shadows often don't come in the mirror too often
Right.
because it's all bright. You want to make sure everything looks good while you're.
Yeah.
But the
And
darks,
also, even if the shadow is in the mirror, people aren't looking at it because they're
right?
looking at so they don't see. You're right. Yeah, that's the wild part.
Yeah, and that's the thing, dude. And as you just said with distractions, there was I watched this thing on YouTube, but they're always showing like they have like little square boxes where the battalions or this is the cavalry unit, this is the such and so unit. It was somewhere I think northern Europe. And
Mm-hmm.
in order to distract the enemy because they couldn't see over the hill range, they literally sent their musicians over there to go dum 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 and then playing
Hmm.
trumpets and playing drums, and it was literally just probably about 20 freaking musicians, and the real
Oh,
army was over here and they were outnumbered, but they're hearing a whole sound from
yeah.
another allegedly battalion over there, and they were like, oh crap, we need to get out of here. They outnumbered them a good number, but because of the distraction
Yep.
they ran for it. And when I'm watching this, I'm going, this is what we're doing in modern society. And when I'm reading like a Robert Greene book, I'm over here going because he explains what happened in history and then he takes away this is the manipulation or this was the interpretation of
Yeah.
this. And I hate to say it, but sometimes you do need to read those kind of books
Yeah.
because
And
it
you
helps.
talking about the same Robert Greene that wrote the 47 Laws of Mastery, the
Yes,
public, okay, yeah,
yes.
and seduction, or yeah, he's
And there's
no, yeah, well, he does talk a lot about the kind of what warfare slash manipulation,
yes.
right? Yeah,
And
yeah.
and again, we're supposed to be wise as serpents. It doesn't mean we implement it. There's also like Double Speak, another great book resource if people can find
Hmm.
it and get it. And it's again, it's not free. Sometimes when I'm reading it, I'm not reading it to be manipulative or blah, blah, blah. I'm reading it to go, okay, now as a Christian, knowing this, how can I influence in the good
Yeah.
way, knowing good and evil, right? How can I use this and be like, how do I apply the biblical lens upon this and help somebody instead of like making them stagnant? I start training them with I put a little seed in there and now I've
Hmm.
cultivated it. And it might have been manipulative, but again, it's just like a kid. Don't you sometimes have to manipulate your kid in order
Yeah.
for them to get confidence? Like, okay, now you know how to tie your own shoe, or oh, here comes the airplane, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to that. I'm just trying to teach you to have confidence to pick up the sword. And I think a lot of times, again, iron sharpens iron. We're not teaching somebody saying, hey, dude, about to go into battle. I need to make sure you have your game plan on. And I need to make sure you know how to wield that thing. You're not going to throw it down
Yeah.
and run away the minute they come charging at us. This is what people don't like about some of us is that we're over here saying, I'm willing to go over the ridge. Are you?
Hmm. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because, one of the things that, because I definitely get that from your posts, and you've mentioned that a number of times in our talks, that you want to, make soldiers out of them, and,
Right.
and that's a noble and just cause. I think where I'm at now is a little bit different, and I don't know why. Maybe because of maybe it's because I don't have the faith in them that you do. But where I'm at is I just want to help you stay safe. I know you're not going to spend hours a day researching this stuff. I know you're
Right.
not going to become an, I don't know why I think about this because, well, you know why it is, Brandon, is because I look at people and I always look at, you will know them by their fruits. If they haven't
Mm,
spent years, building a library and researching, and if they don't spend their time doing that, I think subconsciously and consciously, I know, hey, they're never going to pick up this.
yes.
They don't want to be on the front lines of the information war. So what I do is I go, okay, how can I protect them as much as possible by saying, okay, don't eat these foods.
Mm.
Don't do this, don't do this. Let me just give you the bare minimum. Whereas, I admire someone like you that, has the faith in these people.
I don't know if
And
it's
I
faith,
just
dude.
don't have that faith because I just look at them and go, oh my gosh, you're going to get slaughtered out there.
And I think that's why sometimes, yeah, it's like I'm throwing myself into a meat grind daily, but that's
Yeah,
also what I'm
and I
kind of
sense
seeing.
that in your posts.
Yeah.
I sense your frustration. I sense your, you know, are you seeing some of your audience, form a line and pick up the sword? And I mean, how's it going? How's the
Uh,
recruiting and training going?
it's small numbers, but for me, by the time the small number even comes through, I count them as, special forces.
Like hip 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 hip
They're
hooray!
like
Like,
brothers and sisters, it's because
yeah,
it's like, okay, because I'll get DMs. I'm a dad. I was kind of thinking I was doing this, blah blah. I listened to a couple of your shows, and it's really been helping me view my life differently, or I'm doing something different in my life. And for me, thank you. Somebody made it through basics, and now they
yeah,
can join me in going on special operation missions. Because,
yeah.
like I said before, sometimes it feels like I'm a grizzly old vet coming over, and I got
Mhm.
mud and dirt sitting at the bar, and these young cadets come in, brand new, right out of the academy, brand nice shiny uniforms, and they're like, "What's it
Yeah.
like over there, old man?"
Mhm. Yeah, you've talked about that before. Exactly.
If
That's
you
what it
knew.
feels like.
And
That's what it feels
it's
like.
grisly, it's nasty. It says sometimes you have to go, and it's not
Yeah.
pretty. It's not
Yeah.
pretty, but this is the confidence that I have is I understand we control the prophets of Baal. We don't have to be afraid. And everybody's like, it's a violent. Yeah. When God gives you the command to go forth and slay them, there's a reason for that
Yeah.
because they're misleading the people. They're lying intentionally, knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate I'm not saying everybody has a weakness, and I'll acknowledge that. I get it, but there's a certain point where I says, "Can you at least get up and stand next to me?" You don't have
Yeah.
to know all the tactics, but
Yeah.
again, they're intimidated if we're forming a line, shield wall, right?
Hmm.
You don't want to even pick up your shield, and that's what gets frustrating. And then you call me a narcissist, you call me this. I said, "You're not ready to join the ranks." Because
Yeah.
if that's your first line, or like you're seeing it as frustration, maybe because you're a fellow content creator, that's how you read something.
Yeah.
Somebody else says it and says, maybe if you said it a little nicer. I do get it. I apologize. And that's why I
You
say,
didn't ask me nicely. You're like, I'm trying to help you.
yeah,
And like
the
I'm not gonna
scripture's not
ask you
necessarily
nicely. Like,
at you. It might be for somebody you share it to, or it's a little bit of do you see how bad this is, people? But
yeah.
you're reading it and either you're seeing it yourself in it, you're thinking I'm being mean specifically to you, even though it's not you.
Yeah, they
But
don't
it's like
realize you're trying to help them.
right, because I'll get more than if you're like, oh, this is like a biased post. So what about Biden? Or this is solely a liberal. And I'm like, that's what
Yeah.
I'm reading all the
They're
time.
missing the point.
Right. And I'm like, I look at, and then I see these people's profiles. They're on private. They have sunglasses. It's an avatar of some kind of, anime show. And I'm like, or a politician put his fist in the air.
Yeah.
It's just shush. If your
Yeah.
heroes are fictional and or illusions that the world gives you, I don't have time for you. What I'm asking is, and I actually do think this is biblical because it's a righteous angst in the sense that even
Yeah.
Christ was saying, "Servant, I gave you a talent and you're not using it." That's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at. Is that I see a field that is so ripe, and you don't even realize the nutrients that are within you. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying like find the inner light within. I'm saying no, like you have a potential to shine. You're a funny person. Try to get out there and say something. Try
Yeah.
to if you have this particular gift with cooking, try to
Yeah.
thing with that.
Nourish people. Yeah.
Right. And I went again to a game night, dude, and I was actually I should have complimented her and I might do it next time.
Hmm.
But they were making jokes about rubbing, a genie because they were rubbing her husband's belly. Again, don't get freaked out. It was
Right.
just
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a simple guy messing around saying, "Oh, look, you have a big belly," and I was saying that it's like rubbing the Buddha belly, and she was saying because we've had arguments before about Christmas trees and we had other things about symbolism talks I mentioned before with
Hmm.
the Daniel guy, and so she said, "Well, why don't you look it up? Why do you rub a Buddha belly?" He says, "No, you don't need to Google that." I'm like, she knows me. I want
Yeah.
to know why we do the
Yeah.
things that we do. And again, I should have encouraged that because what is she doing? She didn't say don't do it. She's the one that told me to do it. And I said,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right, because you do know me. This is what I
Do the
do.
work. Yeah.
If I see something, say something, look up something.
Yeah.
Why are we scared to be
Acquire
informed?
knowledge.
Because last week you looked up horoscopes, which again I know where it's from, but that was okay. But now I want to know, why do we do that actually?
Yeah. Well, but then it comes back to the, culturally, it's accepted to, let's say, drink beer and go to sports games. You're
Yes.
weird if you don't drink beer and go to sports games. Although and I'm going to be posting about this too. I'm seeing a lot, there's a huge like proliferation of non-alcoholic beverages coming onto the market, and I'm seeing people, even my own self. I used to drink alcohol, and over the last number of years I'm like, I don't want it anymore. That's a
Yes.
spiritual growth. That's a growth. I'm seeing a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm not drinking alcohol anymore. People are getting sober, they're getting informed. There seems to be like this movement, which is so positive, because in my experience, part of the reason we keep, plugged into the system is they feed us crappy food. People eat crappy food. They drink alcohol and they watch movies and stuff. And as we've seen over the last handful of years, some of these major, the Disneys, the Marvel, they're losing ground. Like something's moving in this world, like waking people up. Are you seeing this? It's wild.
No, when you put it like that, holistically and stuff like that, like me, I'm getting, I'm loving talos and balms. I'm
Yeah, me too. I'm
the
going
health.
in that route too, like natural and naturopathic
Yes.
type cures. I mean, people, I don't know, sometimes I think, gosh, maybe people are going to wake up. I don't know if all of them will, but a lot of them are. I mean, when you're seeing that these streaming content platforms are not making the money they used to make, and the alcoholic beverages, people aren't drinking them, as much as they used to. It's wild.
Well, they're
It's,
losing money and they're losing ground. Like I bought this shoe. It's like
oh, yeah.
hike footwear, but are you familiar with the toes?
Well, yeah, that looks like a more of a natural toe.
Yes,
What
it
brand
bends
is that?
outward, so it supports your natural foot. So
Yes,
it's
I'm
not.
all about that. I'm about ready to make
Yes,
a purchase of those myself. What brand is that one?
hike footwear, I think .com.
Yeah, it's more of a, yeah. The toe box is wider, like a natural
Dude,
foot,
it's
but
done
it looks like
so
it has a
well.
thinner sole too, right?
Yes, well, I wouldn't recommend it when you're going like treadmill or something like that. But I mean, when I'm
For
just
hiking.
basically, yeah, white walking or just going on
Yeah,
concrete
people
and
are becoming more aware of, yeah.
yeah, and
Because
it
I
feels
always
so
look at
much better on my back.
Yes, I look at people. I look at some of the shoes because it's kind of snobby of me to do, but when I look at people and I look at the shoes, and if they're the ones that, old school, like that point in, that aren't natural ergonomic, I'm like, you're hurting yourself.
Yes,
And but it's fashionable, right? It's
yes.
like it's fashionable to have a drink in your hand, or it's fashionable to, but yeah, people are waking up. That market is growing.
It's growing and like getting cotton, getting linen.
Yes.
It's bad for breast health. It's bad for your your junk,
Yeah, you're
gentlemen, because
yes, exactly. All the
yes.
polyester, it's not, yeah.
I read brands incessantly now, dude. And then sometimes I'll be getting something. I'm like, oh, I learned some new ingredient thing. I'm like, I can't get it
Yeah.
anymore. And where I can, I cut it down like 95%. So when I do have something like that, I'm over here like, okay, well, I've cut out majority
Yeah,
all
it's a
the other
percentage
stuff.
game.
Right. And
That's
I think
wild.
it's beautiful. Is it a little expensive? Yeah, but like I like the way I'm
But it's
seeing
better for you. I mean,
yeah, it's worth the investment
it's
because it's
worth the
better for
investment.
me. Our time is very short, but when they bring me to FEMA and they say, these people are sick, I want to look like one of the healthiest specimens you got
Yeah,
on
I
the
mean,
block
and
of
and like
that's sick.
and that, what, again, it's not just about what you put in your body, but the mind is important too. I mean, these healthy
Yes.
foods nourish the body and the mind. It's so important when yeah, it's wild. you know.
It's really a beautiful thing, dude, because for me it is encouraging that I am seeing people when I can mention something like I'm getting this, and they're just like, I don't know. But when I talk to someone that actually knows what I'm talking about with the health
Mm.
benefits, or they throw something else at me, and I'm over here like, oh wow, that's really cool. I'm now becoming almost like compulsive, not like immediate, but I was over
I
here
know
like,
what
oh,
you're
the
talking about.
brand. Oh, this one
Yeah.
has this benefit and this thing, and I'm learning
It's like
about
a drug, isn't it? You want to know
it
more. You
is
want to learn more. Yeah.
because I'm excited and I'm like, this is normal. I think that's the thing is that we've been giving so much fake, superficial. Same thing with relationships, dude.
Yeah.
I just saw a meme and it was like this says the women's are like, oh, the guys are so complicated. They want this and this. Yeah, they're so toxic. They're narcissistic. Blah, blah, blah. And then the lady says, I made you this for dinner. And there's like a DVD of the Roman Empire. It's a
Yeah.
sandwich and a beer. And he's like, oh, I love you. I will literally die for you. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
that's, yeah, it's really that simple.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, dude, is like even when leading the home, I'm not saying be a dictator. I
Right.
want to lead the home because I love you guys. God
Yeah.
put a
I want to
burden on me.
protect you. I'm going to help you, Yeah.
Right. He
Put you on the
gave me
right
a
path.
logical, rationalizing mind to
Yeah.
try to just ground the family on reality, right? And I'm not gonna impose. I just want to do this because I love you guys. And it's
Yeah.
not about being mean. It's like, yes, I want my kids to wear good shoes, but I also want them to have good feet when they get older, so it's not like
Yeah.
having foot pain or back pain or and it's
Yeah.
the littlest things, dude. And I think that's the thing is that people they're so programmed as like, well, culturally, this is really good for us, but it's like holistically,
Yeah.
spiritually, it
Yeah,
or
is it really? Well, the other
right,
day,
right,
Tony Baker, I was watching, and he's a comedian, and he had a reel, and he said, when he tells people he doesn't drink alcohol anymore, they're like, "Well, what happened? Like,
yeah, yeah,
what, what happened? Like, they thought something bad happened." He's like, "I just don't drink it anymore." And then he goes, and then I tell him, but if you tell people you don't drink water, people are like, "Cool." Like, there's certain
yes.
things that are accepted. Like, it's so wild. Uh, it's just,
All they drink
or
is soda, and it's like
yeah,
it's kind of like idiocracy, dude. It's
it
like just
is.
pour more of the dew on it, and it'll grow, bro. It's like
But
no,
that's the cultural programming that,
yes,
if you don't abide by it, you're the weird person. If you don't, eat fast food, you're a weird person.
right.
I'm like,
Even
I'll
if
be
you
weird. I don't want to eat certain things or drink certain things, you
yes,
know?
if you know where it comes from, and this is where my buddy is like
Yeah.
or like again, I have a what is it, copper drinking
Oh
bowl
yeah, nice. Do you drink out of that throughout the day?
as often as I can when I remember to bring it somewhere, something like that, and everybody looks at me, I'm like, listen, you
Yeah.
do you. I got my own, as
Yeah,
best as
but
I can, filtered water put
yep.
into this little baby. And when I have to resort, it's like, yeah, but I'm taking the bare minimum of the crap that you're offering, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to get as much as possible with this. Like,
Yeah.
if I could, I would try to get a little community, or if I had a wife that was making tallow and balms, I'd be all about that. I'd be like, I'll help you do
Yeah.
small business and all that, because that's what I want to support, dude. Support the small people, the mom and pops,
Well, and start creating trends and shifting culture, because that's really what it also is too. It's, in addition to an info
countercultural.
war, it's a culture war, and it's a
Yeah,
societal war. I mean, because if once people really see, once we do our jobs, and many others do our jobs correctly, and we make people see how detrimental the movies, the television shows, the fast food. Once we do that, and you get to the people that, then you create a different culture. You shift culture, because that's all they've done, is they've just shifted culture. You know,
yes. And that's on dude, that's where yeah, I'm trying to explain this to folks.
yeah.
That's what was scaring Rome.
Was
You're
it?
not drawing a single sword and you're converting an entire empire. You're
Yeah,
converting districts one at a time. People are leaving the temples. People are getting rid of their idols. Why? Because it was a countercultural war. They're not joining the Senate. They're not joining the Congress. They're not becoming the emperor. They're literally just doing it by living their lives and saying, "Yeah, we're
hmm,
here, but we're not scared of you."
yeah.
And that's
So
why they were like, "We got to capitalize on this. We're going to find the closest thing that sounds similar to it. Sol Invictus and Mithraism, cool. Catholicism, boom." And it's been going on ever since.
yeah,
And
yeah,
for me, it's like, yeah, guys, we're not our community should be so similar to like it's almost like the Amish, where it's like, what do you mean
yes.
don't do this?
So outside of the system, I think about that all
Yes.
the time too. Like, and granted, some people, even people in our own spheres, they're not going to be outside of the system. But as far as like, and you've mentioned this, me in my house, I do things differently. I don't watch the same shows. I don't eat the food. I don't, just it's a different way of living. And I think a lot about the Amish lately because those people, I didn't used to think this way, they got it figured out. Their lifestyle is I know they're happier. I know they're not on prescription medications. I know they're healthier. Like, and in the Western world, mainstream world, we think our, way is the best way. Meanwhile, the whole rest of the world that is away because they're going, you guys are sick mentally, physically,
Arrogant.
emotionally.
Yeah,
And many people think we got it figured out, and we're like, no, we're backwards.
we're,
You
we're
know?
the bastard stepchild, and everybody's looking at us like we're the
Yeah,
representative of the family, and it's like
exactly.
that's
Because
the
we have that
best.
arrogance, because
Are
we've
we
been
the
told
aren't we one of like the youngest though?
we
Out of
are. Yeah,
China and Europe, it's like we're literally second plus one cousin,
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
and
But we have
everybody's
a big
looking
head
at us
about
like,
it, and
yeah, as if we're coming at the, and again, that's kind of what I find ironic. If
yeah,
we're supposed to be the greatest, and we're like literally the last in the line,
yeah, yeah,
we're this sick as a culture. You can't tell me we don't have some sort of influence with end times. I'm sorry, because
yeah,
we are so backwards in our thinking that when I look at somebody like that, and that's what I'm saying, the tribal aspect, we only use money when we go into town. Otherwise,
yeah,
I don't really care about your capital. I prefer barter and trade if that's
yeah.
possible. Why? Because we don't have to worry about inflation then, because we
Yep.
trade. We don't have to worry about, like it becomes like, yeah, we're a small community, but we're not a city. You still
Right.
have air to breathe. You still can go to a park and it's not like incredibly crowded and stuff like, that's kind of what I would like to get back to, where it's not so crowded and intense. Like we could, for me, still doing this kind of stuff. Why? Because it's intellectual. I can reach other people, and
Mm-hmm.
like I
Well, we
said,
built for it too.
right, and or even if I was teaching in the school there, like for wherever
Yeah.
the community is, I will teach your kids, because again, this is what some of the Jesuits would do. But they would groom the king or something like that, and then
Yeah.
like with King George, that's kind of what they were doing with him, and then he would like write down all the stuff that he knows about the prince.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer to do that as a Christian, though. I'm going to tell
Yeah.
you about all the secret side. I'm going to tell you about this. I'm going to give you real history, not just, oh, we'll give you the war highlights and this, that, blah, blah, and then send you out and here's a little diploma. No, I want you, so like anything that a quality that I see specifically in you, I want to
Mhm.
cultivate that and groom that so that by the time you are released into society, you
Yeah.
contribute something. It's not just fit in the box, do the narrative, run the rat
Yeah.
race.
Well, and then that's what they do this homogenization. Every student gets the same thing because they don't want to make an individual. They don't want to make it like you said. They don't want to pull out the talents and gifts God gave individual students because then that would make them a danger to the system. Like I said, it
Yes.
could be a chef, could be a lawyer, could be whatever, doctor. They just want to give students and make them a cog in the wheel and go, okay, your job is in our system, go find your job. I mean, it's so diabolical.
But it's like, yeah, you can pick any job you want, just don't go for
Yes.
the good
As
ones.
long as
And
as
if you
long as
do
it's one
go,
of these.
right, if you do go for one of the good ones, don't you dare blow the whistle, because then we'll
Yeah.
fire you, or you expose the government, and we'll have to.
Yeah.
That's illegal to expose your government if you go against it. And this is where I'm like, if that's what's illegal, but it's hurting a lot of people, and that's not your priority, is going after the thing that's hurting the people. Why would I keep supporting the thing that's hurting the
Yeah.
people?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Once you
that's
realize it. See, I
that's
didn't realize it for many years, but
many don't. Yeah,
yeah, many still don't, which is, I was thinking about this today, and back to what you said, after COVID, if you're still asleep, I mean, that is commendable on
terrifying.
one level, like you're really, really deep entrenched. You know.
Well, again, I was doing the etymology because they were showing a Trump Vance sign, but the way it was TR, or sorry, TV for Trump Vance, RA raw.
Oh,
As you're going all the way down, I was going, and then the UN for Trump
yeah.
middle. I was
Oh,
going, okay, I think that's a lot, and then pulmonary whatever, E for when you're putting all together. I was just going, that's
yeah.
really weird, all that. But when you merge Trump and Vance's name, you get trans.
Oh, wild. I didn't ever thought of that.
And
Holy
and
moly.
then when you had Trump and Pence, it was Trumpence. The Trump still sound.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Granted, I'm laughing. It could be wrong, but I
But it's
think
an
sometimes
interesting assessment.
We're
It,
expecting the Trumps in Revelation. The Trump sounded when the walls of Jericho fell. Christ returns at
yes,
the sound of a trumpet. Yeshua, Christ. All I'm
yeah,
saying is I'm seeing a lot of irony.
yeah,
If I'm right, that's why I always say that because everybody keeps. I want to be wrong.
yeah. Me
That's
too.
the
I want
thing
to be
people
wrong
don't
too.
seem to realize. But I keep
Every
looking at it
day.
with the Bible lens slash conspiracy lens slash okay politically culturally okay, after all three, right? As opposed to
Yeah.
just you're just looking at it from the left. Oh, you're just
Yeah,
looking at it from the right.
you apply the different layers. Yeah, like you
Litmus
said, the lenses.
test.
That's a good way to look at it. Through take off those glasses, put on the different glass. Yeah.
Or like the Ben Franklin thing where you're flicking all the
Yes.
different shades to see something. I'm like,
Yes.
that's how I'm viewing this spiritually speaking, because that's what we're supposed to do. There is a spiritual realm that we do not see,
Yeah.
but revelation means the lifting of the veil so that we can see. And there's some of us
Hmm.
going, oh wow, that was a 666 here. Okay, oh wow, that was another. And some of us are trying to tell you, okay, don't just say that. Now, what does it mean?
Yeah.
Full do a little bit more, a little bit like this for me. It's kind of like
You're doing
okay,
it.
that
You're doing it.
ABC. Let's form some words now with what you know. And I would like to because again I do put a lot of hours into this stuff and sometimes I'll see a dislike and I don't even think you watched it. I think you just hit it because you don't like me, which is
Really?
totally
Yeah.
fine. But at the same time, I pity you because you're lazy.
Yeah.
That's honestly how I see most of these.
Well, and also, again, circling back to what you we're talking about the theatrical nature of it all. One of the things that's been
Yeah, yeah.
over the last number of months for me, really in my mind, especially after watching, I think it was I think it was either Tantura or one of those Israeli documentaries, and where they flew over, I think it was Warner Brothers, if I'm not mistaken, maybe MGM. They flew over the film crew to document the voluntary leaving, the Palestinians are voluntarily leaving their land so that they could brainwash or propagandize Americans saying, oh, it's all good over here. And then you look into Warner Brothers and their slogan is taken from Plato, uh, those who tell stories rule the society. I mean, and you see the propaganda coming from Hollywood and it all starts to click and you're like, holy crap. Like,
Yes.
and then I think to myself, I I want to be a counter person to that, just like you are.
Yes.
And this is why tell people about like to talk about the CIA so much is, the CIA is about information gathering. Well, I want to be a CIA and tell you the truth so that you don't get, for to be a good guy, so to speak, you know.
And have you ever watched the show Chuck?
Chuck, in what sense? I don't
It,
like
it, it was it was made I think like 2010 onward, somewhere in that period.
what was it about?
So it's about this young kid that works at like equivalent of a Best Buy, but it's kind of Buy More as a parody on that. And he works
Okay.
basically in the Geek Squad department, and he acts his buddy that works in the CIA sends him
I
this thing
think I
where
did see
basically
it. Was
when
it a
you
series?
download it, he gets a computer in his head and he learns something
Yeah.
instantaneously.
I think I
And
did see it.
and I'm chuckling because it's kind of like that, where a lot of people's like, I'm just somebody that works here, blah, 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 and they get all freaked out when they get into these panicky situations with the government
Yeah.
quote. But for you and me, we're over here going, we're telling you what's going on, as opposed to giving it entertaining and putting it out on TV or wherever. We're going like, yeah, are you familiar with this program where they were doing this and they
Yeah.
brought this thing over and they were working with this group and that thing, and they're just like, oh come on, dude, blah blah blah. But when and then it hits them
Yeah.
in culture, like with these planes and whatnot, if you and me, we see looks like a psyop. Why would you say that?
Yep.
Timestamp this thing. The runway was this, but we break down point because we understand how to read it,
And
and
see
everybody else looks
past
at us
the.
like you're crazy. No, remember when I told you about this? Yeah,
Mhm.
whatever. And that's the problem because we're telling
Yeah.
you about our book assignment and you didn't read the same book. You don't
Yeah.
get what we see. And that's the saddest thing because it's like that's there, or like so they were when I was in a group, when we were doing game night, they said it's kind of like the Freemasons. You familiar with that group? Yes, I'm somewhat familiar. Everybody called it like duh, like come on, people.
Well,
I
and
might
I
have heard of them once.
yeah, like it comes back to I don't I think I do know that sometimes people go through their whole lives and never know themselves or never know their talent or never know. So then I just extrapolate and I think to myself, well, some people are going to go through this whole life and never see the real scenarios that are happening, and that, I don't know. I mean, not everyone I think is gonna wake up, because I see people not waking up to their own
Right. And they
reality.
can't look at themselves.
Yeah, they can't look at themselves. Heaven forbid, look at the world and go, And I think that's where what it has to. The first step is you have to be radically honest with yourself. Like you said, look at the shadow. If you can't even do that, then you're never going to see the truth in the world. If you don't see the truth in yourself, and like the good, the bad, the ugly,
Right. You
then you're
acknowledge
never
that
going
you're
to see it in the
reflected
world
in
either.
dude, and that's I think in part people don't want to look at themselves because it goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden, is that God offers them several chances. He's like, Adam, where are you? Still hiding. Finally, he confronts them, and then he says it was the woman, and then the woman, it was a snake.
Mm,
Everybody passes the buck of
yeah.
responsibility when he says, you can just come forward and tell me. I already know. Do you really think I'm that
Mhm.
stupid? This is kind of the same thing now with our own personal responsibility. Give us a king, give us somebody else to do it, and
Yeah.
we'll all throw our stones at them if something goes wrong. And God's just like, no, I don't like religion. Oh, yeah, so everybody who hates religion, cool. You're in the same. Yeah, I don't like organized government, whatever, all this stuff. Cool. God doesn't like it either. Like a
Yeah.
lot of the cynicism that people have, this is where God is already at. The problem is you've been getting duped or hurt by the systems, ideologies, the institutions that you as an individual haven't found your purpose. And that's all he wants to do is saying, hey,
Yeah.
I know you were a fisherman, but let me show you how you can actually work with people. I
Yeah.
know you do taxes, Matthew. Come with me and I'll show you. It's
Yeah.
not
Anything you do, anything someone does in the real world for the system, the bad system, can be done for the good system.
right, right. And that's where college, while yes, a lot of it is Jesuit influenced and like seminary, Semiramis,
Mhm.
like Nimrod's wife's name. I chuckle at a lot of this stuff because a lot of people are going in with good intention, but then they take it becomes like a nepotistic cult where once you take the pulpit is the throne of the pastor, as somebody wrote it, I think some historian. And I said, yeah. And I like to look at if you did go to college, we don't really need to do the first year because that's literally recycling all the stuff you did in high school, right? So we take off
Mhm.
already 1 year with just with that. And then we kind of, well, what I would say is focus on the things you genuinely want to do. You want to be a homemaker. Cool, fine. Maybe we could even take that as like a high school class, right? Or
Mhm.
you want to learn carpentry or welding. By the time you're done, you already have this instilled with you. But we're not doing that as a culture, well, public school, whatever. I think that's part of the thing is we're not training people to have trades or
Mhm.
emphasizing and doing the things that you like or that's already in your personality. We look at it as in if you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a architect, that go
Yeah.
for the things that are going to make you a lot of money as opposed
Yeah.
to what's going to make me happy. And I'm not saying happy as in like you just forget your purpose. No, what makes me happy? What's the gifts that God gave me? And how can I
Mhm.
it might be those things. I'm not saying no, but I'm saying
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But is it truly those?
right, because you
Oh,
want to, if you're doing it and it's something you love,
yeah.
it's not work and you're actually contributing and you're helping your neighbors as opposed to you're just taking from them.
Yeah. Well, and I look at that, and because I see that going on too, and I put that in the category of sinister, diabolical, and that's something the devil would do is
Hmm.
mislead you to believe, or teach you silly things,
Right,
that don't serve you, so that you suffer in life. And then the devil's like, I got you. You're sad and lonely and on 50,000 prescription medications because I misled you, which.
right.
Well, the other thing that I think about is this, and you mentioned it last time we talked about purpose, which was phenomenal when you said that if you do not have a purpose, you'll be a pawn in another man's game.
Yes.
It's funny that you said that. And I just thought about this, because the thing that got me, that riled me up in COVID times, and I might have told you this, is I saw the system I saw the system pulling people from their purpose, because
Mm,
it was making nurses who are awake go, oh, I can't be a nurse now. I've got to fight this information war. And they're pulling out of the nursing, or they're getting fired. The nurses are getting
right.
fired, or doctors or lawyers or whatever. And what more diabolical way than to, as you and I know, in military strategy, if you wound a person, you win double, because now you also have to have someone from the front lines come and tend to them rather
Right.
than just kill them. And so I saw all these people getting pulled from their purpose, and or fired from their purpose, and I was like, oh my gosh, we got a problem. In addition to the fact that they were conscripting people to go do things they wouldn't normally do. Like, it was all bad, but it was centered around purpose. And you nailed it. Like, if you don't have a true sense of what you're here to do, you I didn't get distracted in COVID because I'm like, you guys don't have what I need. Like, I don't,
Right. Right.
I have my mission and game plan. I'm sorry that, or I don't know what's going on over here, but it is not my concern, because God's given me my mission and game plan. And
Yes.
that, I think, is what got me in the game. I was like, holy crap,
Well, dude, well
you
said.
know,
Well
I mean,
said.
but yeah, you nailed it. If you do not have a purpose, you will be distracted. The same thing, people over watching television or overeating or over consuming content that is all crafted in a way to manipulate and change their behavior. It's very dangerous.
It changes your behavior, but I think there's like the standard, like this is normal DNA. Let's just go with that. This is the standard DNA that God put in you. This is the personality that He gave you. And I think some people, they get all freaked out because when I mentioned, I think in our last one, somebody wrote a comment, "Oh, empath, blah blah blah." And I'm like,
Mm,
no, empathy, introvert. This is
yeah.
things, like and I'm not saying, because I know another girl. She went to a Christian college, but now in her bio, Jungian in training, which is
Mm,
collective consciousness with a lot of the stuff
sure.
he was pushing. And like in school, you're like $100,000 in debt averagely by the time you get out, right?
Yeah.
And especially going to a Christian school, are you teaching them the philosophy so that they implement it, and or psychology? Or are you teaching them saying this is what's out there, right? But I would always pitch, this is where it goes. This is what that ultimately leads to compared to the Bible. Do they acknowledge God? No, they say that communism's the solution or blah, 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 blah.
Hmm.
Like, outline it, because you don't want people going, I want you to know what's out there so that when you're witnessing to somebody who thinks like this,
Yes.
you know how to counteract that with biblically
Mhm.
speaking, yes. But we don't even train. It's just like, oh yeah, he was very profound, and Plato said this, and Aristotle said that, and I'm like,
The
yeah, but
surface level,
right,
surface.
right. And it's just like you were saying earlier with the news. I'm giving you just enough to make you, it's a binky. A soothsayer is like a binky of just like,
Yeah.
everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry. Mommy and daddy's got this. And it's like,
Yes.
Big Daddy government
Meanwhile,
does
the
not
agenda
like
is
you.
moving forward. You
Yes.
know.
Big
It's-
Daddy government does not like you. You are the bastard stepchild, and he just wants to drink all the beer and freaking smack around his wife until there's nothing left.
yes.
And I am over here going, I'm child services. All right.
Yeah. We have
I would
a,
like,
we have a report of
right.
abuse in his family.
And that's kind of
That's
what
a
we're doing.
great
I'm with child services.
that's a
Like, you're
great
hurting,
analogy.
you're hurting,
Yeah.
you're hurting the kid, and I'm
God sent me. I'm here to,
yes,
stop this debauchery.
God sent me.
I mean,
No, dude, that reminds me of Babylon. Have you ever watched Babylon 5?
a little bit, a little
There's
bit.
one with Ivanova and stuff like that. And she was over here saying, like, who are you? Who the hell are you? Or something like that. It's just, I am this, blah, 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 and I will destroy you. God sent me. And they're all like, okay,
Mm,
we're out of here. And they turn around, the ship's in the.
whoa.
But I was
Yeah.
over here like, that's exactly what it is. It's like, God sent me.
Yeah.
Um, Here's the thing. I came to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. So
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
that's kind of where we're at. We're just like, shh, it's go
Yeah.
ahead, run, or I'm gonna start flipping over tables, because what you're doing hurting the people, and the
Yeah.
people, they don't understand. Like I said, I'm sorry, I'm the sheepdog. I'm gonna be the first line of defense against said wolf that wants to come for the throat. But the master is giving me the whistle, saying, "Go after it," because I need to go get my shotgun in the meantime. So growl at
Mm.
it, stand, do your pose, be the threat, intervene as long as possible. Hold the line. And that's what you and I are doing. We're over here going, guys, the master doesn't want to kill you. He just actually wants to use your wool so he can get a
Yeah.
profit this season. So don't
Yeah.
get mad at him. Try to listen to me. I know you don't like me nipping at your heels. It's a little rough. I get it. And there's times,
Right.
I'll admit it.
I don't want to do
I'll
it
admit it.
either,
I
but
go
it's
over the line
necessary.
sometimes. But
Mhm.
sometimes a dog does bite when you pinch him.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
what I'm saying? Because you could literally be like, okay, the kid's what pinched me, but the dad who came over to reach over to grab my leash, I bit him because,
Yeah.
again, I'm seeing too many things going on at once. I'm defending myself.
Right. Right. In
I
war,
admit
there
it.
are going to be some, casualties on both sides, and sometimes you get a
Yes.
friendly bite, or
Well, yeah, it's quote unquote friendly fire. We
friendly
are
fire.
spiritual
Yeah.
warfare. And
Mm,
again, I think that's the biggest thing is that I don't think of myself above reproof. The problem what I have is when people are advising me, but I don't see them doing anything themselves.
really? Yeah, that's a good point. Good
The
point.
same thing with I told you with my buddy with the debate. Okay, you willing to go and no, I need time to prep. But you already found already cynicisms with this guy, this thing, and that thing. You already found, you don't like this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
So you talk a big game, but then I invite you to come into the room or come by the campfire and let's hear what everybody else has to say. Listen
Yeah.
into a conversation and basically that's basically what I'm saying, as opposed to just DMing each other. Let's have a public format.
Yeah.
Run.
Now, did you say is this individual, is he also a content creator, or is he more of a spectator?
Just a spectator.
Okay, see,
And,
well,
and
and
I'm laughing.
right then and there, I mean,
Yes.
if you're not consistently putting yourself out there, and it as you and I know, it's like, that's like going 0 to 60, you know.
Or
And I don't blame him, but
like
he
you're playing
should.
football while we're playing basketball is
Yeah, kind of.
essentially
Yeah.
going
If you're
on.
not consistently doing this sort of thing, because as you and I know, that's okay. Yeah, you prep a show, or you get your thoughts in order, but at the end of the day, you have to jump,
Right.
whether you're
Right.
ready
And
or
it's like,
not.
again, I offered books, I offered this, but it's the same thing with my mentor. You're finding cynicisms, but you've only watched one show, and never the shows that
Mm,
I do the presentations and I bring all my receipts to the table, and they're really long for a reason.
yeah,
Because I'm thorough, and
thorough. Yeah.
I throw it out there. I could be wrong, but here's a book, and some
Hmm.
people who buy the
Here's the
books,
reasons why I believe this way. Yeah.
right? And again, I factor in all this stuff when people tell me again. People might think if I did a show on that, no, but I have a lot of people throwing stuff at me, so I'll tell you this is actually how I think. And when I see this, yeah, I'm a contrarian. I think what he's saying with this particular thing, he's wrong because I do think about that because they're saying contrarian
Mhm.
is a narcissist. Or one guy was saying that. I said no. I'm always thinking about when somebody says something, was it this, blah, 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 blah. So when I'll write back, I'll
Yeah.
be like, well, there's this about you, there's this about you, and this about you, and this about you, and there's this about me, and this about me. I
Yeah.
factor in your side, my side. So I'm not just thinking I'm right, Aaron. Yeah. No. And that's how you should be. If you're again, conspiracy theorist, you're overthinking it. Duh.
Right.
If I'm overthinking about this matter, you think I don't do that about
I'm.
myself?
Yeah. I think back, I am so blessed that I'm so grateful that I'm a conspiracy theorist, like, and have trust issues or skeptical, because come on,
Yes.
in this world, geez Louise.
Dude, it's healthy. And I was listening to one thing on YouTube, and they were saying that sometimes contrarians could be dangerous people because they'll be prone to go into this. And I'm over here like, what's wrong with that? What
Yeah,
what is wrong with trusting conspiracy theory? Like I had one guy on
especially.
Facebook. He's an anarchist, which like he was telling me, oh look, conspiracy theory. I said the definition of an anarchist is to be against a superior group of beings or elitists that meet in secret to plot your demise and or hurt the culture as a whole. So how do you nickname yourself Captain Anarchy if you're not even pro conspiracy?
Yeah, yeah,
Captain Dumbass. I'm sorry, that's the definition of a hypocrite because
yeah,
you're using a word, but do you understand what you're saying? You and
yeah,
me, when we're calling out ideologies, not identity, people are saying, oh, you're this. Do you know what they believe, though, thinking wise? And because you
yeah.
don't even know how to think outside of your little box, how are you supposed to know what I'm condemning?
It's true. It's
That's the
true.
problem because you and I do compare contrast and we connect the dots, whereas you are just going, oh, that sounds so mean of you to come to that conclusion.
Yeah, yeah. Cultural
It's not out of
appropriating.
nowhere. What do you think? We're just going whoosh, whoosh, like a cat swinging in something in the air, and we no, we've done our due diligence because you don't understand the process of how something is made, like the food you consume.
Yeah,
How are you supposed to understand how we came to the conclusion with something in our mind? Right? We've been reproved. We study ourselves so that I think I think that's what somebody
yeah,
told us. Studied ourselves to be reproved, or
yeah.
renewing of your mind. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I'm doing. I
Yeah, you
used
want to
to.
make sure you're sharp, so you don't. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's not just fly by the seat of the pants, because I mean, you know, we want to be right, and the word I'm thinking of is like, it's important, to do the homework so that you have the understanding.
and
Yeah,
there's no shame with that, dude. I think people, that's the thing. It's just like kids, dude. Because when you go home, you don't want to do the homework because you think you already know everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Too smart.
And I think that was I had these two old guys, and again, my story. He says, "And how's she doing?" His daughter, and he says, "Oh, you know how it is when you're young and you think you rule the world, and once you get older, you realize the rules of the world own you."
Wow. I haven't heard that before. Yeah.
Dude, I wrote that when I was like 17. I'm like, good grief, people.
That's
I'm thinking
that's
years
good.
ahead
Yeah, you've been on the
because
path. Like you're built for this.
yeah, well, yeah, and then that's the thing is I like bringing out that kind of rhetoric that just kind of makes you chuckle and go, yeah, because that's how it is. Is granted, I think it is stupid with the homes with bringing homework, but it's the
Yeah.
concept of okay, when you're on your own, I want you to do a little practice on your own. So it's kind of like when you're doing martial arts training.
Yeah.
Okay, now you learned how to do like I was doing with kendo,
Hmm.
with swords, katana swords. I
Yeah.
would practice my forms. You can still do this when you're not necessarily
Your
at the
own.
fellowship,
Yes.
right? Or
Yeah.
when you're working out. I don't have to go to the
It's the
gym. I have a
it's the
chair right here.
dedication.
Right,
Either
right,
you're dedicated or you're not. Either you're in earnest or you're not.
right. And that's the same thing biblically speaking, dude. Are you in the Word? Are you studying yourself to be improved? Again, if you love God and somebody tells you the cross is a pagan symbol, look into it. This is what it means in
Hmm.
the Gnostics. Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Again, it's patriotism, blah blah blah. This is what it says in this thing.
Yeah.
It's not where you get mad and defensive because you're like, oh, you're taking it out of context. No,
Yeah.
these are things that grieve God's heart when you're reading it from the prophets. So therefore, apply it with a modern lens. Slash, then why was it grieving God's heart? People don't want to
Yeah.
dig into that because they're over here saying, "Well, I don't do it for those reasons." Now you're changing God's word to
Yeah.
adapt your narrative and how you live your life. That, as a Christian, you should be kind of angry, but at the same time going, "I can't talk to my ex-boyfriend anymore." Yeah, you're married
Yeah.
to me now.
Yeah.
Therefore, we don't talk to him no more.
Yeah.
Does it make you a little angry?
Well, like
Yes. Like the attention.
it makes perfect sense. I mean, well, the thing I always think about, and this is a lot of it is my naivete, but in a fallen world, when you really when the lens is lifted, you see, oh, well, it makes sense that there would be deception and lies, and that all of the people in positions of power, including people in running religions and people running government, like should be skeptical of them. And then that leads you to believe. I look at a lot of Christians, and I'm like, okay, you guys don't know what you think you stand for, because in a fallen world, I was often joke about this, and again, my limited knowledge of it, if I was a pastor, I would tell people every time they walk through the doors, as I was be like, this is a fallen world. Use your discernment. The people in positions of influence or power are going to try to deceive you. Watch
Hmm.
your back out there. But I don't hear pastors saying that, you
Dude,
know.
yeah, and then that's well said. Yeah, well said. Because if we're supposed to be sober and vigilant, because our adversary, the devil, walketh about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. My
Yeah,
thing is, what does a lion do? What's a lion's tactics? They look for the strays. They look for somebody that's already wounded and weak, or they look for someone that looks incredibly tired, right? Weak, tired, stressed, tired, what straying from the herd. This is what the lion goes after. Whereas, like with zebras, when I was watching Animal Planet or whatever it was,
yeah,
when they stand together, all those stripes on their back causes a blur for the lion's vision, so it's harder to just run right into it because I can't see straight.
yeah,
Because if you start straying, it's like, okay, there's nothing, I don't have nothing else going running up against that, so I'm not blinded. I can just chase you down and rip you to shreds.
yeah,
They're not giving us how to fight. They're telling us, don't worry, God's got the fight.
yes,
All you have to do is accept him, and then you're going to get a rapture extraction ticket. Come on, climb up, climb up.
yeah.
Okay, who wants a golden ticket? You want a golden ticket? You get a golden ticket. You get, and instead of it's, okay, this is something that's going on.
They're setting up to be slaughtered, is what they're
Right,
doing.
right.
Mm,
Condemn
yeah,
the culture, condemn society, condemn politics. Yeah, you might lose followers, but it's also like you and me. You sometimes get people because they're going, the other way was not working.
yeah,
And
more and
you're hitting
more
my
we're
head
getting.
against the wall, and I'm looking over at you going, you're over here surfing, having
Yeah.
the time of your life. It looks. But
People
they're
are only
going,
coming to our side. They're not going, that no one is going to the other side, people, because the other side is lies. I mean, the people, as people wake up, they're only coming to the truth. So
Right.
our army, and I sometimes think of myself as a recruiter, our army is growing, their
You're the
army is
recruiter. Yes.
shrinking. You know.
I like the way you frame, because we're prior to the show, guys. We were talking about how Mark here has a very calm, unassuming manner. It's not in your face, or again, I can be like that, but he is calm. Whereas I'm the guy. It's like I'm coming back. I'm telling you the
Yeah,
front
put your sword,
stories.
you hold your sword like this, whereas I'm like, don't get your,
Not
just duck,
bad.
just duck. Let me teach you how to duck and run. Brandon will train you how to go to the front lines. If you just want to duck and
Get to the
hide,
throat right here.
yeah, like cover yourself with a bush. I don't know what, but just stay out of the stay out of their way, because I just see that so many people are not equipped, to be.
I needed to hear that. No, that's
I don't
good.
know,
And I like that you're able to
but you need
again,
both
like
kinds.
you
You
said,
need both styles.
define your purpose. Understand when you describe something, because I think it was Confucius, to paraphrase. When words lose their meaning, people lose their liberties, their freedoms. Fill in blank.
Mm,
And that's kind of what we're living in now. Like the other guy I want to do a show with, and it's not condemning, but he's like, I understand what his gripe with libertarians. Because I told somebody when I went to a Turning Point USA event on libertarian, he's like, "Oh, so you're pro-abortion?" Whoa, no,
hmm.
that's still a
Yeah,
life. Therefore, as a I should be,
yeah,
all life is sacred to God. That thing has
yeah,
its own decision, but as well, it's a vessel to be protected. That is ultimate. It has its own sovereignty, um,
yeah.
and it's made in the image of God. So therefore, no, I'm not. But because we now take a word, oh, you're a liberal. So that means I have blue hair, I vote for Biden,
Hmm.
I sit on the couch all day long, I watch The View. You know what I'm saying? Like we automatically just throw boom and that's just it. Whereas the other thing is, what do you believe? Let me ask
Yeah.
you more. It's an agora. It's walk yourself through the process of school. Um, I saw one clip, and I'll probably share it at some point, where the professor he comes in and he kicks out this lady in the front row, and I don't want you in any of my lectures anymore. Get out of the room. And in essence, he was saying, all right, why did I just do that? And every what did that about? And it was like, I think that was kind of. Did anybody think that was mean? What I just did? And it was like, how come none of you said anything?
Mm.
And that's kind of I was like, yes, because and I'm reading some of the comments that just went right over everybody's heads. I was like, the metaphor being is even if you're like, okay, yes, it is the professor. He has the right blood. He has the jurisdiction. There is not one person saying, Professor, I understand this is your class. However,
Yeah.
I ask, what was the thing that she did to get her kicked out? Can I ask, and again, not challenging your authority, I'm just asking, why do you think that was right, what you just did to her?
Mm.
Nobody
Wow.
speaks up. They just sit down and cower, or they'll just
We've
roll
been
their eyes or
trained. We've been
whatever.
trained to be subservient, and be
Yes, but
submissive.
even as a kid, dude, I was part of a gang. I
Huh.
think I was like second grade.
Right.
Be it as it may, I was the scrounger. I went around looking on the cafeteria floor for money. That was my
Yeah.
job. And the thing is, when there was this new kid, I think he was from India or Mexico. All I remember is he had really dark skin,
Hmm.
and the table was making fun of him, and they're all saying these little digging things and stuff like that. I just picked up my meal. I went over and went to sit with him. He was sitting all by
Yeah.
himself. He's like, "You're not gonna be my lieutenant anymore." I'm like, "I don't care."
Yeah.
Next thing you know, that kid was joining our
Wrong
crew
is
after like
wrong.
2 weeks. Right, right.
Yeah.
But it's the premise of I don't really care what the collective is thinking. Somebody else is being hurt, or they're sitting by themselves. Nobody's reaching out to them.
Hmm.
What's the harm with this? I don't understand, and I think
Yeah.
this is why when I've been at certain places, people look at me and they're like, "How do you know everybody?" I says, "I sometimes I don't. I'm really just being friendly with everybody, and then they
Yeah.
introduce me to somebody else." And that's
Yeah.
why I like shows like The Blacklist. You have a guy that's on dialysis as your torturer. You have another guy that was part of a child trafficking ring as your bodyguard. And I'm not saying go into the crime industry. What I'm saying is that you make friends from all walks of life because it's just your personality. It reels them in and they want to be part of your friend or your
Yeah.
organization.
Good point.
Yeah. And as
Point.
Christians, you had people who were Roman society becoming Christians and then they would donate to the ministry. You had other people that were slaves that but because you're both Christian, like,
Yeah. The hierarchy, the status or your position in life in this world doesn't matter. Isn't
right,
matter. Yeah.
is what can you contribute to your community of the
Yeah.
body of Christ? Because yeah, is a heart very important? Yeah. Is the head very important? Yeah, that's why you target those two when you're trying to
Yeah.
bring down a target, because you stop the computer system, everything goes down. You start the
Yeah.
thing that's pumping blood to everywhere, it goes down. So you might have the 20 talents given to you.
Hmm.
Therefore, try to do a little bit more with what you're given, if you can,
Yeah.
if you feel so led. And then there's other people. All I have is two mites. That's still a
Yeah.
toenail. It helps me look better to people, or when I'm waving at somebody. You know, like
Yeah.
it's something. It's something.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome, Brandon. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I enjoyed this.
Likewise. So we'll continue this and we'll put these up there and you know, get our technical stuff worked out and move forward. How's that?
Sounds good, dude. I love the. Yeah, I'm excited. I feel giddy.
Well, it is. It's good. This is necessary, and I think it's important to talk about these things. So this is a good
Yeah.
like first effort into this, and um, we'll reconnect and
We'll
we'll
tell
do
people to
another
join
one.
the foray next time if we can
Yes,
figure that
exactly.
out.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, we get some questions, some interaction from audience members, etc. But
Yeah.
all right, so let's connect and we'll talk about the next one and work our technical difficulties out.
Okay. Sounds good.